it and you say that's the kind of win you get when you shouldn't get. And it didn't happen for Florida. So, nevertheless, the Gators now move on to Georgia, and we all know how difficult that game was, at least for a half. Florida really buried them in the second half of that game down in Gainesville, or here in Gainesville when we played them the first time, when Florida played them the first time. So Florida can get back on the winning track. I guess that's on Wednesday night. We'll talk about it more when you get back in. Shane is, by the way, on assignment today, folks. That's why he's not with me today. He will be back. We stuck him out on an assignment, and you'll learn about that assignment one day, I'm sure. But at any rate, college basketball over the weekend, QB. You know, Florida State, we're ready to crown them in the Final Four as a top seed. And just like everything in college basketball this year, the parity is incredible, right? And here goes Florida State playing a team like Clemson. And you're expecting, this is a win. They were up by 10 at one point, and they end up losing the game 70-69. Did you see that game?
I didn't see it. Well, I was flipping through the channels in and out of the house over the weekend, and at one time they were up with like 2 or 3 minutes to go. FSU was up like 6 or 7 points. Next thing I know, they lose the game to a bad Clemson team. So, as you mentioned, the parity in college basketball. Think about this, JC. With a 71-60 loss to Illinois State on Saturday, Evansville finishes 0-18 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Think back to November the 12th. The Purple Aces beat
Kentucky.
Beat the number one team in America, which was Kentucky, 67-64. They were the first team in the NCAA history to beat the number one team and lose all their conference games in a single season. Think about that.
Well, I'm trying not to think about it, but if I do think about it, it's quite an amazing thought. I tell you, that is shocking. I had no idea. I also had no idea that you would see Clemson, a team that has beaten Duke, Louisville, and now Florida State, come in and lose to teams like Miami, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech. They did beat North Carolina for the first time in 60 games. That would be the equivalent to what Florida, Kentucky, and football was. You know, Florida wins by, 30 some odd straight years. Clemson had not beaten North Carolina in 59 games, but beat them in Chapel Hill this year, but then lost to some other games, and they're a 500 team. How about Baylor? Your Baylor Bears go down to TCU, QB.
Which is an awful basketball team.
I mean,
so you think about it. Baylor had won, a Big 12 record of like 26, 25 straight games.
They're 25-3 right now.
Yeah, but they had a Big 12 record for the amount of victories in a row.
Right.
And they've lost two in the last
two
straight.
And a half. Yeah, 2 straight. So Baylor goes down. And then Duke, the team that doesn't play defense. You can't spell Duke without a D. And D, without D, you know what it says. Duke loses to Virginia, your defending national champions, who are now 21-7. They're playing a lot better. Duke goes down and loses to Virginia. And as you mentioned, Duke, this team, Florida State, Duke, Louisville, all have 4 losses in the ACC now, with just about a week or so left. So it's a 4-way tie in that conference.
Yeah, I mean, and then, a lot of people have been high on the Creighton Blue Jays who've been dominating people. They get blown out by a poor St. John's team yesterday by 20-something.
Threes were raining yesterday, just 3-point shots everywhere.
So, we're getting very close. This is the last regular season for the Power 5 conferences of regular season play, and then we start the conference tournaments, and then before you know it, we're right into March Madness. But this has got to be, in all the years that I can remember watching college basketball, this is the one year where anyone can win.
It really is. It just depends on who brings their game on any specific night. In the Southeastern Conference, QB, we mentioned the Florida-Tennessee game, but elsewhere in the league, Alabama beat South Carolina. Now, is South Carolina a team that's going to make it? And some folks would have a doubt about that. They lose by 4 to Alabama, who is probably not in the tournament as of today. Kyra Lewis had 25 points, so that's a bad loss for South Carolina. Missouri goes down to Mississippi State. Another big win for Mississippi State, but some would say they're still not quite in it yet. Tyson Carter had 15 points, including the final 4 points of that game for Mississippi State to win 67-63. The Bulldogs are fourth in the SEC now at 19-10, but they are not considered one of your locks to make the tournament, even though they are ahead of Florida in the SEC standings. Their resume is not as good, even though they are 19-10. So that's interesting. Kentucky 14-2 in the SEC. QB 24-5. They beat Auburn by 7, and they win yet another regular season title. Did you watch any of that game?
A little bit here and there.
Yeah.
I think Mississippi State, that was a huge win for them on the road at Missouri.
It was.
I think they're a team that is still kind of on the last 4 out or what have you. I think they have a chance because that is an extremely talented team. As you mentioned, their resume is what could hurt them, their the strength of schedule. But I think they, got 2 regular season games left. I'm not sure who's on their schedule. If they can win both of those and win a game or 2 in the tournament, the SEC tournament, I think they get in.
You think they could get in? Well, I mean, it will be interesting to see here in the last week or so. And then, of course, that tournament in Nashville, QB, I don't know. I mean, why didn't you put in for a correspondent position before we started this podcast about 2 months ago to be on assignment in Nashville? What were you thinking there?
I know we could set up a little table outside there on Broadway. And, take in some country music in the background right there in front of Bridgestone Arena. That would have been a lot of fun.
Think about it. Right now, folks, QB can't see this, and he'll watch it later, but we have a picture of him in his glory days for the Washington Redskins. There he is.
Those were glorious days.
Taylor got you with a Washington Redskins visor, and there you are wearing those old school uniforms. My only Washington Redskins QB story I have for the audience today, which is timeless, was when our friend Brady and Johnny and I went down to Tampa to watch you play an exhibition game. It was your 4th exhibition game of the preseason, and you started against Tampa Bay, and you guys won all of your preseason games in spite of the fact that you didn't have a very good regular season. But I was so excited because you actually threw a touchdown pass in that game, and I jumped up, and Brady and Johnny looked at me and said, "Sit down, JC. It's a preseason game, you idiot." And I said, "Wait a minute. He just threw a touchdown pass. Spurrier's 4-0 in the preseason." And one of your friends said, or our friend said, "I doesn't mean anything, JC." But anyway, we're excited, and there you are in your Redskins uniform. Taylor, can we throw him in? Can we put the QB in another uniform that maybe there he is. All right, there's the QB. Look at that. Look at that throwing motion. Look at that style. I mean, his fundamentals are impeccable, Taylor. Wouldn't you say?
That's right.
Look at him. Look at him up there.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, see, the voice of God. There we go. All right, so QB, we've got basketball now, finishing up. Any final thoughts before we move on as we get into the final week or so of the regular season? We've got Florida has Georgia and Florida has Kentucky to finish the the regular season here at home in a week.
No, I mean, it was a disappointing loss, but I liked how we played in the second half. The one thing I liked the most is Trey Mann, the true freshman from Gainesville that played his high school ball at the Villages. I thought he really came on there in the second half, took the ball to the hoop, made a lot of good plays off the dribble. So maybe that will carry a little confidence for him in this home stretch.
Well, let's certainly hope so, and let's see if they can finish strong in the regular season. It would be very nice to get 2 wins. It's all about seeding for Florida right now, and you certainly don't want to go limping into March Madness in the final week of the regular season. And I consider somewhat the conference tournaments part of March Madness because of how important it is to teams that are on the bubble or to the last 4 in trying to get in. And of course, we would speculate right now that Florida is comfortably in the NCAA tournament, but you don't want to have a bad week to finish off the season and then go to Nashville and lay an egg. And certainly we don't expect that to happen. But the top 4 teams in the league get that 2-day break before they have to play in the SEC tournament, and that goes a long way for their legs and for their weekend play if they have to play on the weekend in the tournament to advance. So it's a very important week coming up, and this is where we really wrap up and find out who's legit and who's going to make a big move and a big splash or maybe get in as a Cinderella story in college basketball. So closer to home, QB, we had a big Florida weekend. A couple of teams really stood out for me. And we'll get to our play of the day after the break. But the baseball team had a sweep of Troy. That was nice to see. Troy came in as a very offensive team, a team that could hit the baseball. Florida goes ahead and wraps up a sweep with a big 7-1 win yesterday at Perry Field in front of 4,000 fans in what I could consider as maybe the most beautiful weekend we've had weather-wise in Gainesville in probably 2 months. It was spectacular. So the Gators sweep Troy in baseball. Hunter Barco had 9 Ks yesterday. This is actually the best start in school history for Florida, winning, what is it, QB, 11-0 now? So
yeah, first time Gator baseball's ever started season 11-0. And
well, no, they did it in '89 and 2002, but they've tied the record and can beat the record at 12-0 if they win on Tuesday.
Okay, maybe it's the first time under Kevin O'Sullivan.
It is under him, yes.
So, they're a fun team to watch. They battle back in a couple of games. You usually don't sweep these type of games because you're still early in the season. You're worried about pitch count for your pitching staff. So, gosh, what a great way to start. And, man, they got a chance to make a long, long run.
I think so. Tomorrow night, they will be down in West Palm Beach. That's Tuesday night baseball against Florida Atlantic University. Softball did not fare as well. They played a very good team, Louisiana, who we have affectionately known as Louisiana Lafayette. Now they just want to be known as Louisiana. So Louisiana came in yesterday and took 2 out of 3, finishing the series to the finale, winning the series finale 7-6 against the Gators in softball. Then we had gymnastics. They had a great finish to the they had a great finish or start to the weekend, getting off and winning. They will be playing. They are 9-0 now, 7-0 in the SEC, and they head off to Penn State. You could probably watch that on the Big Ten Network if you want to on Friday. So gymnastics had a good weekend, and then of course lacrosse. You love keeping up with those lacrosse Gators.
I mean, they beat the number 1 team in America, Maryland, a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
Now Stony Brook was number 3 in the country, and they beat them. And then a little shout out to Gator Gymnastics. Did they win 2 or 3 national titles in a row a few years ago? I can't remember. But anyway, regardless, it's the first team in program history with an undefeated SEC regular season. And you think about all the great Gator gymnastic teams around here. I would have never thought that.
Well, I think they still play. They still have. You mean the SEC regular season, right? Because they still have Penn State coming up on Friday. Yeah,
right. But that's the first time ever. And I mean, we have 2 or 3 national titles, so you would have thought maybe one of those teams had gone undefeated in the SEC play, but they never did.
Yeah, no, it's spectacular. I mean, this team is special, and I think Rhonda Fain really got it started when she was here. She moved on, and now we've got great leadership at the gymnastics program, baseball program, softball program. Even men's tennis is hot right now. And speaking of that, before we hit to the break, we will have men's tennis coach Brian Shelton on with us one day this week. We'll wrap that, we'll confirm that and get that started. But the men's tennis team is ranked 6th in the country, and the only reason I bring it up is because in tennis, the focus has usually been, and rightfully so, on the women's teams. The men's teams haven't really been very noteworthy until now. They are ranked number 6 in the country. Okay, we'll take a quick time out. We'll come back with our play of the day, sponsored by Area Rug Masters. We've got the QB, Shane Matthews, on assignment. I'm John Cornell. We'll come back after the break and go that route. We'll have the QB on till about 8:30, 8:35, and continue on with Pot Up with Matthews in the morning here on a Monday.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gators Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer. Area Rug Masters, your number 1 choice for rug cleaning.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okita America Martial Arts and After School, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, the Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys,
The Digital Mortgage Guy,
Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa,
Wrap Spot,
Cold Stone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebration Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Matthews in the Morning, Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. I'm John Cornell here, live Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock. Shane.
Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate.
Outstanding. Our play of the day now is sponsored by Area Rugmasters, and this is certainly an exciting play. Area Rugmasters is your number one choice for all of your area rug cleaning needs here in the area. Outstanding place. I'm going to be giving them a call here soon with that dog I've got running around the house. All right, Shane, let's go to the play of the day. This is Judd Fabian of the Florida Gator baseball team. Yesterday in a 7-1 victory, we had a 3-run 8th inning, and this ball, I mean, nobody knows where it is. It is so far. It is so far out of there. Look at how everybody in right field is looking behind. They didn't even bother looking at it. And by the way, those jerseys that have the cursive Florida going across the front with the single blue stripe QB, you have to love those.
I do. That's what they wear at home games on Sundays. Speaking of Judd Fabian, the bomb he hit may have hit the O'Connell Center.
Oh, sure.
In 11 games, JC, he's hit 5 home runs. He has 13 RBIs and batting .320.
Whew.
A legitimate center fielder who actually, he left high school early last year. So technically this should be his freshman year, but it's his sophomore year. But he's a phenomenal player, and that's one of the longest home runs I've ever seen there.
Well, he went 2 for 5 yesterday, 3 RBIs. The team had 8 hits. We had another very solid pitching performance from my man, Hunter Barco, who is now 2-0 on the year. He had 5 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, only 1 earned run. But what I noted earlier was his 9 strikeouts, followed by Christian Scott, who had 3 innings pitched, 1 hit ball, had 2 Ks, and then Brandon Sproat finished it off for Florida. And this team, as we mentioned, has now tied its best start record-wise in program history with an 11-0 run. They smoked Troy over the weekend. Troy's an 8-4 team. They were 8-1 coming in, so they could hit the baseball. Small school out of Alabama, pretty solid program there at Troy, and certainly Florida took it out on them and won big over the weekend right here in Gainesville. So next up for the Gators, as I mentioned before the break, is Florida Atlantic. They will be playing them in West Palm Beach. And then they'll come back here to Gainesville on Wednesday to face FAMU. And then on the weekend, we've got the South Florida Bulls. I don't know anything about them. We'll do some homework on them and try to get a capsule for you. That's what they used to call it, QB, that capsule, as we get ready for that series. Freddie says on Facebook Live, 11-0. That's correct. Butterball says Gator baseball is going the distance. I am to presume that means all the way to Omaha. We've got Gary. I was going to read these after the next break, but I like them now. Gary says the Gators need another pitcher. Rick says, look at the size of Shane's hands on our little box here. Yes, we already did the hand thing, Rick, last week. His hands are about 2 inches longer than mine and almost as long as Joe Burrow's. What's the matter, Taylor?
Correction. Gary did not say the Gators need another pitcher.
What's it say?
It says needs another Gator pictures because I put that Redskins picture.
Is that what you did? Well, thank you. We did that. But I like the Redskins
I don't want
picture.
people thinking the wrong thing about Gary.
So, QB, the NFL Combine over the weekend. How about C.J. Henderson's performance?
Oh, yeah. Well, when CJ got here after his true freshman year, I was like, this dude is an NFL corner waiting to happen. I mean, he's so tall, long arms. But he ran a 4.39, tremendous cover guy. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Good for him. He's a guy that I think can last in the NFL for a long time. But one thing that was interesting to me, and I didn't even realize this, JC, because it's been so long since I went to the combine and I don't really follow it. They make the punters run the 40. They make the punters do the bench presses. The punters do everything. Well, Gator punter Tommy Townsend, ran faster than like 5 or 6 of the Big Ten receivers.
Why doesn't that surprise me, though? I mean, that's a great stat, and it's very atypical of what a punter would do, QB.
No, he's a tremendous athlete.
He's a great athlete,
But that goes to show you how slow some of the Big Ten receivers are.
Well, yeah, it really does. I'll take Tommy. Listen, I think it's amazing to me how the Combine has captured an audience now that could actually sit there and watch these guys do exercises on television. To me, I know it's important that you follow the players that you watched play in college for years and years and years, for at least 3. And certainly we have a big interest in how some of these former Gators are going to do in that Combine so they can position themselves for the NFL draft, which, by the way, I saw a movie over the weekend, QB. I don't know if you've seen this. Kevin Costner made a movie about draft day. Did you know that?
I do remember it. I don't think I ever saw it.
It's called Draft Day. But the pressure that these GMs are under, and, of course, the anxiety that a lot of these kids feel, am I going to get this money? Am I going to get that money? Where am I going to end up playing? Do I want to get drafted by that team? Don't I want to get drafted by that team? Do I care who I play for? Because in the league, it doesn't matter. It's just about getting on a team and getting paid, finding a roster spot. To me, the draft, and I've just kind of gotten a new appreciation for a lot of what happens. Now, tell us a little bit about when you were playing college here. You were not drafted. You signed as a free agent. But what was that like for some of your friends who you knew were going to get drafted on draft day?
Well, it sucked for me because I was told I was going to be the 3rd quarterback drafted behind Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer.
You were told that?
Yeah, by all the so-called, they didn't have all the media hype, but the projections were I was going to be the 3rd guy taken. And then there ended up being like 9 quarterbacks selected the year I came out, and I wasn't one of them. But
were you sitting in the living room at home with your dad and mom, or with your dad? And just
I actually, I knew I wasn't going to go the first. Well, back then I think the first day was the first 3 rounds. So obviously I watched a lot of it. Waiting on a phone call, didn't get it, and then the next day I went and played golf. And was hoping I'd get a phone call. Never did.
So what'd you do on the first day?
I watched it on TV at home.
Just at home, yeah.
Yeah.
Did the phone ring at all?
It rang after the draft. Whenever like 10 different organizations had called wanting to sign me as a free agent. Pretty much that's what happens to majority of the college players. That if you don't get drafted and you were a player, you started a bunch of games, you're going to get an opportunity to go to a training camp, but. It's very aggravating, and the guys that are going to go in the 1st and 2nd round. I mean, there's a lot of anticipation where you're going to go, but you're going to get drafted, and you're going to make a lot of money. The ones that I feel bad for are the ones that don't get drafted, and then it's tough to make rosters. I mean, people forget that, and they only keep 53 dudes, and then they have a little small practice squad, but. The average career of an NFL player is 2.5 years, and there's a lot of turnover in that profession.
How about a guy who's not playing football? I don't know if you saw this, QB, but he's an announcer now, and he used to play football. I don't think he ever won a playoff game. He may have. I don't remember. But Tony Romo, did you see what he got?
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous that he's making more than the best players in the league.
Well, or as much. He's going to get paid. I thought I saw a report that said
$17 million.
$17 million. To which I say, good for you, Tony. I mean, that's great. That's good for him. CBS wants to give him that, and good for them. That's now owned by Viacom, folks, for all of you keeping score on corporate America. But Wow, 17 million. And so what do we hear? Of course, we hear from some of these players as they are trying to weed out the CBA and the collective bargaining agreement. Some of these players commenting on Tony Romo getting money while they're out there doing the game, playing the game, but he already played the game. And certainly is respected, I think, amongst his peers in the announcing and playing profession. I don't know, QB. Some of these players, though, who have already got solid contracts, and we're going to go into the collective bargaining agreement and what happened and what's going to happen here after the next break. But while we have the QB, what do you think? 2020 is going to be played. That season is locked in. They are going to play it. But the CBA is for 2021 and 2022, and we've got people such as Maurkice Pouncey and Richard Sherman and all these others, Aaron Rodgers, saying, don't sign this deal, guys. We're going to take care of you. What do you think they mean when they say we're going to take care of you there, QB?
I really don't know. And again, I haven't really followed it closely, but we talked about it last week where, I want to say about 70% of the league is made up of guys making a minimum salary, which, don't get me wrong, minimum salary is a lot of money for 17 weeks, but their pay raise would be like $200,000 or $300,000, which is huge because you got to remember that 70% of the league only plays about 2.5 years. That other 30, the other 20 or 30% of the so-called superstars that are making multi-million dollars per year, they're the ones that are against the new CBA, I believe.
That's
like
right.
I said, I don't follow
right.
it.
No,
but,
that's right. Many of them are anyway.
But majority of your league is minimum salary guys, and so they're the ones that need this new CBA. Plus, the guys that are making all that money, JC, they make probably as much off the field in endorsements with, different type of deals. So, I never really got caught up in that, but the more you think about it, when majority of your league is made up of minimum salary guys that only play for like 2 or 3 years, I think they should go that route.
And I think they're going to go that route, QB. There's 2,000 players or so, something like that, in the league, and everybody's vote counts the same. So Aaron Rodgers' vote counts the same as some long snapper for the Seattle Seahawks. So certainly I think you're going to see that happen, and they're going to ratify. They're going to vote for this CBA. I'm pretty convinced they're going to do it. QB, before we let you go here, any thoughts on the weekend in pro football? We had the XFL try it again, and the scores were indicative of more parity, which I kind of expected to see because some of the teams that got off to a fast start, like your DC Guardians, are now 2 straight losers. The DC Defenders, excuse me, or whatever. Are they the Defenders? Yeah,
they're the Defenders.
And the New York
they were your team after week 1, and now you've dropped them.
That is a fluid situation, QB, who my team is. Very fluid. But I'm kind of liking the St. Louis Battlehawks right now. They are 3-1, and they put it on Seattle 23-16. The New York Guardians beat your LA Wildcats. I would think that's your team. You've always talked highly about them, but New York beat them 17-14. And then
I talk highly of the LA Wildcats.
Yes, you do. You said they were good. And then the Houston Roughnecks, the only unbeaten team in the XFL, they are 4-0. They beat our Dallas Renegades, my man. They beat Scotty and the guys 27-20. And then last night, in front of a capacity crowd of 12,249 fans in the lower bowl of, I guess it's Raymond James Stadium, 12,249 fans, QB, saw the Tampa Bay Vipers get their first win over those DC Guardians.
Well, it's good that they're DC is, by the way, the Defenders. You got them mixed up.
I go again.
Yeah, but the
Defenders.
Vipers getting their first win, they're not very good, but they found a way to win, and I think it's good for the league.
I think it is.
Parity is good.
I'll tell you what's not good for the league, QB, and you can chime in on this since you're such a uniform guy. The Tampa Bay uniforms are
they're terrible.
They're not good for the league.
I'm not sure who signed off on those
don't you
uniforms.
think that if you're trying to get people in there, you would want people to buy your jerseys, buy your stickers, buy your logos, buy a hat that's got this and that, and they come out with that? I mean,
Yeah, it's
who
terrible.
the hell's going to wear that? Who's in charge of this organization? First, they hired Mark Trestman to be their coach, and then they come out with these sick lime green uniforms that look like bacteria running around or viruses or something. I mean, we're living in the world of coronavirus right now, and you've got all this green everywhere. It's just awful. God, it's awful. QB, any final thoughts before we let you go back to your assignment?
Nope. Just have a good show the rest of the day, JC, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right. Look forward to it. Be safe driving. That's Shane Matthews joining us on the Titan MRI hotline. Of course, you can text this show today and any day at 352-353-7465. You can also use that number to call in the show as well. We'll come back. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL because I feel like that's a very important topic. Even though they will play in 2020, it does not affect the upcoming season, but it could affect the seasons going forward from then. We'll also recap some of the weekend that was here in Gainesville with Florida Gator Sports, a successful weekend for the most part, and we'll go through that once again as we continue on a Monday here in North Central Florida.
Timeout! Timeout! Hey! Timeout! 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 There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gators Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice for rug cleaning.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okita America Martial Arts and After School, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys,
The Digital Mortgage Guy.
Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa,
Wrap Spot.
Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebration Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
All right, welcome back. 8:37 on a beautiful Monday in North Central Florida. Here, Pot Up with Matthews in the morning. I'm Johnny Cornell. JC and the QB will be back tomorrow. Shane is on assignment. We certainly like to pride ourselves on this podcast, and something that we've done since the beginning in early January was to have as many guests as we could have join us either in the studio or, of course, on the Titan MRI hotline. And we've had a lot of fun talking to many different people. We've had Danny Werfel. We've had Kirk Kirkpatrick. Coach Spurrier has been in here. Jeff Cardozo has been in here. We've had the fantastic Frank Frangie out of Jacksonville, Florida, along with Terry Norvell out of Jacksonville, Florida, join us here on the show. And Brad Culpepper last week. Certainly, we focus on a lot of former University of Florida players and coaches, but we also like to hear from other media members. We've got folks at LSU. We've got folks at Mississippi. We've got folks in Alabama. We've got folks in Georgia. We've got folks in Tennessee that join and contribute to the show, so that we can hopefully bring you something of quality and something that you'll tune into, whether it's in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night, because on the podcast, you can do that. You can check us out, of course, on YouTube. You can check us out on Facebook Live. You can go on Spotify. You can go on Apple iTunes. It's all there for you. And we certainly could not do it without our fantastic sponsors, one of whom, Center State Bank. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Come in and experience the Center State difference. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank is member FDIC. As I mentioned, guests are a big part of our show, and Lamar Thomas, the former Buchholz Bobcat and Miami Hurricane and Gainesville guy, is going to be with us tomorrow. His family has been an important part of the community. Eric Thomas, of course, at Ironwood Golf Course, one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. If you need help with your golf game, he spends the time with you and gives you all he can to help you get better. But Lamar is going to be with us tomorrow. And, of course, Lamar played for the U. Is that how they do it? How they do it? The U? And the U. And Lamar will be with us tomorrow on the show. I mentioned earlier a big weekend in Gator baseball, a big weekend for the University of Florida, highlighted, I feel like, by the Gator baseball team with a sweep of Troy to get the season started at 11-0, tying their best start in school history, tying the 1989 and 2002 teams. But best start under Kevin O'Sullivan, and tomorrow night they will try to get off to their best start in school history with a 12-0 run as they get ready to play Florida Atlantic down in West Palm. So a chance for folks in South Florida to get on board, watch some Gator baseball, and certainly enjoy seeing what typically doesn't happen a lot, and that is the University of Florida coming down to South Florida to do some business. They did some business earlier this year, just a week or so ago, against the University of Miami and swept the Canes. So that was fun. The Gator baseball team wins yesterday 7-1. As I mentioned, Hunter Barco had 9 Ks, but our play of the day, sponsored by Area Rugmasters, was Judd Fabian hitting that home run in a 3-run 8th inning to help Florida get some insurance in a 7-1 win over the Troy Trojans. So that was an important play and certainly gave Florida some breathing room. The unfortunate thing that may have happened this weekend was the Florida softball team battling hard against the highly ranked and very competitive and quite good team in Louisiana, who came in at 12-4. They walk out of here at 14-5. Florida came into the weekend series at 16-2, and they end up at 17-4 now, losing 2 of 3. But the series was good. The Raging Cajuns are number 10 in the country. Florida is number 6. Not a bad effort though. They really played hard. Our girl Hannah Adams yesterday had a hit. Kendall Linneman had 3 RBIs in the game. Charla Eccles had 2 RBIs. This is a team you can really get to like, though, because they play fearless softball. They went out west, dominated in a gathering with some other teams. Northwestern was there, I believe. Arizona State was there. Arizona was there. UCLA was there, and could have really won all of their games. As it turns out, won every one but one game out west when they went out to California. So they played hard. They played well. And, I think Tim Walton's got what he needs to really have a special year. Hopefully they will find some more consistency maybe in the pitcher circle. But at any event, still a very worthy team to watch. And a lot of fun. And it certainly could be a big season for your Gator softball team. I mentioned gymnastics with Shane earlier. They started off the year now at 9-0 in SEC play, or 7-0, I should say, in SEC play. 9-0 during their season as they trend up toward the postseason. That's kind of how it works in gymnastics. Even if you don't win, you want your scores to go in a certain direction. I think scores are more important than record as it is in the regular season. And maybe if I'm wrong about that, someone can correct me, but I don't know. I don't know if it really matters sometimes if you lose a match or a meet, because as long as that score is trending and your routines are getting better and better and more solid, I think that's what the coaches look for. At least that's what somebody had told me when I was at Alabama, and they have a very good gymnastics program there as well, national championships, so forth. So Florida is certainly in the elite class in gymnastics. Lacrosse team, also a big win for the University of Florida over the weekend. Another big effort there from those girls. They're just getting started and playing really well, I should say. They're playing tough teams and winning. Basketball, we started the show off. A tough loss at Tennessee, but as Shane mentioned, not really that important important, but not that impactful as it relates to perhaps the resume. They are solidly in the tournament, but what I worry about is if they, bag it this week against Georgia and Kentucky, which Georgia's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game because we saw Georgia play down here, and for one half they were dominating Florida, and then in the second half they got dominated. But they won, scoring over 90 points. I think Georgia beat they beat Arkansas 99-84, and that kid Edwards, he's a freshman and he won't be around next year. But he had 26 points, and we saw him here against Florida have a very successful game, at least in that first half when Georgia was really putting it on Florida, but then got buried in the second half. So that's Wednesday night, and then the Gators will come home to wrap it up against Kentucky and hopefully what would be a packed house at Exactech Arena. I think that I think Kentucky is the kind of team that can be beaten, but has certainly shown the most consistency in this league. They're 14-2. And the Wildcats won another SEC regular season. They beat Auburn by 7 at home. So they get, once again, another regular season SEC title. But I don't really care about that. I don't know why anybody really cares about regular season titles. Because we all know basketball comes down to a tournament, right? It comes down to one thing. It's kind of like baseball, to be honest with you. If you don't make the College World Series, really, what's the point of the season? If you have those expectations to make the College World Series. If you don't and you make the College World Series, then it's already a successful season. But I think at the level that the University of Florida is at, just getting to the big dance, well, it is important. It's how far can you go, to me. Now, he may disagree if he's sitting here next to me, but I think it's about winning in those first 2 rounds and getting to the Sweet 16 when it comes to basketball. When it comes to baseball, it's Omaha or bust for me. I mean, if you don't make it to Omaha, to me, that's not a successful season in spite of what you may or may not do during the regular season. Is that a legitimate way to look at it? Well, it may not be, but it is to me. So that's how I look at baseball and basketball, and I certainly think that Florida will be involved in both those scenarios where an NCAA tournament bid is going to come. They're playing for seedings. They want to have a good seed. They want to have a good performance in the SEC tournament, win or lose it. They want to at least advance through and into the weekend. And then in baseball, it's all about Omaha. It's all about Omaha. You have to get there when you're at Florida's level, in my mind. All right, other stories in the NFL, of course, Tom Brady was seen with Julian Edelman at the Syracuse basketball game. And Julian says he's coming back, and Tom's looking over, smiling and smiling. And I don't know if you saw this clip. You could Google it probably or YouTube it, but there's something that it seemed like what came out of his mouth was, "No, I'm not," or "Let's not," meaning let's not get into that now, or "No, I'm not coming back to New England." So whatever he does, it's a big deal because he is Tom Brady. It's a big deal. Another big deal is the deal that they're going to vote on soon, the collective bargaining agreement, the National Football League Players Association. The main job of the NFLPA is to do the best for most. That's what unions do. Do the best you can for the most people in the union. There are players in the NFL that have very, very high salaries, guaranteed money. 65% of the league has much smaller pieces of the pie. This new CBA, in spite of the 17th game that the owners want to add, which, by the way, they have capped the earnings limit for the players at $250,000. That cap has come off now as a gesture. Another gesture the owners made to the players is that some of these 65%ers, the lower paid players, many of whom make the minimum salary, those salaries are going to see a $100,000 to $250,000 spike in their minimums. We have expanded rosters from 53 to 55. We have expanded practice squad rosters, which gives jobs and benefits now to some of these guys that don't make the main roster after the preseason. There's talk that they may eliminate one preseason game. I still haven't found if that's going to happen or not, but I keep hearing about it. So this deal, in spite of the profane-laden tirade by Maurkice Pouncey, who looked like a complete idiot, driving around in his Mercedes, cussing out everybody because they want more money and so forth, and they don't want these higher play guys, don't want the small guys to give in and vote for this deal, which I think they're going to do because, again, the long snapper for the Cardinals, his vote counts just as much as Aaron Rodgers' vote. long story short, his brother Mike Pouncey had a much more measured response to what the deal was. Even though he votes no, he says, listen, I'm going to start a fund to help some of these players that are making minimums with $250,000. Another player is Russell Okun. He and Mike Pouncey have decided that we're going to try to start this fund, put $250,000 in there, and hopefully other players will join in so that if they do go on strike after next season, that this fund will go and help alleviate some of the pressures of their financial lives, which still astounds me how they could be under pressure making that kind of money, even at the league minimum. How you can't last another year or two with $500,000 in the bank. Unless, of course, you go out and buy this, you buy that, you live in this, and you go travel to that. Then maybe it would stress you out. But anyway, I think it's certainly a good deal for the majority of the players. The average career, as Shane said, was 2.5 years. I've actually read where it's 3.5 years for NFL players. But the veterans are saying, or the guys making the big money are saying, no, we can get more, we can get more. Anyway, I think it's a deal that the players are going to vote for. I think Chase Daniel was indicative of where I think some of the smaller or lower paid players are going to vote, and that is, guys, vote for this. You're going to get a raise, you're going to get improved benefits, and we're going to have increased roster spots. That means more guys are going to be able to participate. And again, average lifespan in this league is 3.5 years. That's it. Then what do you do with your life, right? You go coach, you go do charity work, you go back to school. Brad Culpepper, great interview on Friday we had here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning and JC. He was like, hey, I went and got a law degree while I was playing for the Buccaneers. And in the offseason when we finished, I went off to school in the spring and in the summer, and it was a great interview. I really admire what Brad Culpepper did and has done with his life. And I think that's an example that can be, for other players, other kids. These guys are young. They're very young. They have a lot of limitations in terms of where their education may be with money and with budgeting and with finance, because really, what have they known? They've known football. And if you're at that level, that's what you've known mostly, I would guess, is football. And, of course, Shane would be qualified to talk about that with his son playing. My son played football. But it's a reality. It is a 24/7 deal when you're playing football, just like I think in this area with baseball and volleyball for girls and softball. I mean, you do it every month of the year. Parents are running around America trying to take their kids to these places. And maybe one day we'll have a convention center here in Gainesville or somewhere in the surrounding area where you don't have to drive to Orlando to have a volleyball tournament every other weekend. I mean, think about that. A novel concept, perhaps, that maybe youth sports would take some priority in this area. And I don't know how I got off on that. But the point is that these kids, that's their life. And so when they go to the NFL, when they go into the league and they start thinking about important things like life or money, you don't need Maurkice Pouncey, who's got more money than he'll ever spend in his life, cussing everybody out, especially the employers, about how they need more money or hold out for another deal. This is a good deal. This is a good deal, and that's my take on it. And we'll see what Lamar Thomas thinks about it tomorrow when he joins us here on the show. So I certainly have enjoyed being here. Shane, thank you for joining us for 30 minutes to kick off the show. We've got the week going now on Monday. Remember, we try to bring you as many guests as possible and have as good a show as we can during the hour that we have. And tomorrow we've got Lamar Thomas, former Miami Hurricane and former Buchholz Bobcat here in the area, and we're certainly lucky to have him come on tomorrow with us, as we are with anybody who likes to spend their time for a few minutes and join Shane Matthews and myself. I'm John Cornell. Remember, that's a wrap on our show for this Monday. Today's show is a wrap brought to you by Wrap Spot. A vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot will give your business years of brand recognition and increased sales. You see them all over town. It's wonderful. Call Wrap Spot today. Signing off, JC. We'll see you tomorrow morning, everybody.